This is the true story.
True story.
Of 17 strangers.
Picked to play on a team.
We're all adults.
Work together.
I can't do you guys' job. You guys can't do my job.
And have their lives taped.
That's frustrating.
Find out what happens
when people stop being polite.
And start getting billed.
Why no dog?
The Bill world.
DC.
I think it's very important to note the Wizards are 3-1 since we debuted the Beal World DC, our newest show within a show. Just saying. Welcome back to the second half of our schedule release special here on The Jump. You're looking at a list of the teams with the most games after the All-Star break. The Grizzlies and Spurs scheduled to play 40 games. The Mavs, Rockets, Wizards slated to play 38 games. Washington 11-18 right now. But hey, it's the East, so they're only 2 games out of a play-in spot. Matt, do you think their backloaded schedule will help or hurt their chances of getting into the playoffs? Because, yeah, it's a lot of games, but it means they have a lot of at-bats, too, a lot of games in hand.
Right. I think it'll help. I mean, as a team, you want to always control your own destiny. You don't want to have to depend on other teams' wins or losses to dictate your future. So with 40 games, they have 40 games to do it. Hopefully, they'll be allowed to play all of them. But they'll be able to dictate their own narrative there and really, have a chance to do it. Outside of San Antonio, all those teams are trying to fight to get to a playoff spot. So you want as many opportunities to get into those spots as you can. And I think those number of games are going to help all those teams that are on the fringe.
And the Wizards have been playing great of late. So I'm excited to see, get a little break and then finish. You want them to finish strong. Ultimately, I think what I think basketball fans should root for is the Washington Wizards to get that 8th spot. Or even get the 8th spot and then either play against Philly, about the Joel Embiid and Russell Westbrook, or they get the Brooklyn Nets. And again, there's a ton of fun things there, and that's going to be a fiery series with James Harden and Kevin Durant. So I think I'm rooting for the Washington Wizards to get into that 8th spot, just so we can see some really good 1-seed matchups. Yeah, and look, it could go either way. If you have a backloaded schedule, if you have more games at the back end. Injuries could kill you there. Guys could get just tired. But for teams that haven't had practice time this season, and we've heard this over and over again from some of the coaching staffs, just having had more reps by the time you get to a greater percentage of your games could be an advantage. We've seen a lot of these teams that were kind of a disaster for the first month or two of the season starting to round into form now. We've been talking about the Mavericks on this show, the Wizards on this show. Those are teams that had big disruptions in the first part of the season, couldn't even practice or even meet in the same room because of COVID protocols. Now they're getting those reps in, so maybe being a little bit more backloaded, having a higher percentage of your games when you are a little more together will help them. We will have to see. Now, during the break, we showed you the teams with the toughest strength of schedule in the second half. That's, of course, based on current opponent winning percentages. We cannot predict the future. Here are the teams with the easiest strength of schedule, though. The Jazz are first, followed by the Nets, Heat, Mavs, Celtics, and Sixers. So, Richard, the Nets have already been dominant in the first half of the season. This last couple of weeks, they have looked so scary since trading for James Harden, especially. Now they have a, quote, easier schedule in the second half, strength of schedule-wise. What do you expect to see from them? I think they're still going to be figuring it out. I think they have a good rhythm right now. I think they're still going to have some defensive things that they're still trying to navigate. You still have a first-time head coach. You're going to be adding Kevin Durant in. So they're going to be figuring out. They're still going to be great. But I want to give a compliment to everybody to the Utah Jazz. They have the easiest strength of schedule left. That means they had one of the more difficult strength of schedules in the beginning, and they are the best team in the league, and they have been dominating the league. So they went through the hardest part of their schedule, dominated better than anybody else in the league. So I just want to give them a little bit of credit. That's amazing because you see it. There's nobody else that's even that close. So shout out to the Utah Jazz. I'm going to put a ton of respect on your name. That's impressive. I was not expecting to see that when that popped up on that graphic. But yeah, that's just me.
I think Brooklyn will continue to build. Obviously strength of schedule. To me, one thing that scares me about the second easiest schedule is I know they're going to get hot. They're probably going to get the number 1 seed in the East, but the quality of competition, is that going to prepare them for the playoffs? Obviously, I think their big three will be able to overcome that. But moving forward, what's most important for me, for Brooklyn, is strengthening that front line. Whether it's, guys that are being bought out and bringing them in and really kind of getting some more depth on that front line, because you look at once DeAndre Jordan goes down Jeff Green's hurt now, KD's out. Those are normally your backup fives. And although that's a benefit on the offensive end, it's a liability on the defensive end. So I'm looking for them to strengthen their front line moving forward. But I think that number 1 seed in the East is wide open now, considering their strength of schedule. And we're going to have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, that buyout market is going to be crazy. Remember last season, we had the Lakers and Clippers really competing for guys almost just to make sure the guy didn't go to the other team. That was as important as what he could do for your roster. I think this year we're going to see that again with the Lakers and Clippers, but you will also see the Nets joining that fray. Also, all 3 of those teams, they're championship contenders, but they have some needs, and I do think that's where you're going to see them try to fill it. The Nets will be an interesting case there, Matt, for sure. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.